course, our podcast listeners too, wherever you're listening today. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Got a whole bunch of stuff. First of all, hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas holiday. Hope everyone had a good time. Hope you did get to spend some time with your families. I know it's tough for a lot of folks. Unfortunately, my family ended up not getting together, and it's just because not because we're worried, because someone actually got sick, unfortunately. So we're like, if you're actually sick, we probably shouldn't hang out. That's here's the thing about about this stuff, right? I I saw a post from a libertarian that I really like, and they posted and they said, well, are you going to not gather with your family this year because of what the government says? And it gave you like react with your option. Yeah, I'm not going to gather because the government told me to, or I'm going to do what I want, or I'm going to try even harder to gather with my family because the government said so. Here's my thought on that. Just because the government says something does not necessarily mean they're wrong. Every once in a while, it's not wrong. Now, the policies associated with the coercion, the force, no, that's great. But if you're just doing the opposite of what government tells you when, they're not even enforcing some of this stuff, you're not really thinking for yourself. You're just being a contrarian at that point. If you're doing the opposite of what the government's doing at any time, or what the government's saying at any time, you're still letting the state do your thinking for you. And that's what I had to do. We had to evaluate the situation with my family, and we said, all right, well, there's an actual illness here. Don't know that you're over it. It's not worth, me exposing, my young son and my, my family to this thing. So this it wasn't based on what the government said at all. It was based on, hey, these are actual things that are happening in my family, right? Same thing if this happened 3 years ago and turns out one of my relatives had the flu, we'd be like, okay, maybe you should stay home. And I've been hitting this message throughout the entire pandemic, right? Like, you don't have to always take what the state says at face value. Particularly, we know that the CDC, presidents of both parties, members of Congress of both parties, they've misrepresented the truth in order to push their political ends. We have to think critically and move beyond these tribal boxes that they try to put us into, right? Where you've got to be one extreme or the other. You can think for yourself, and you can make decisions based on the data available to you. And that's what my family had to do, right? And that's what like your family should do too, right? No one's sick, or if you want to take precautions and you want to use a rapid test and gather together, do your thing, right? Like, why should the state stop you? And luckily, the state has peeled back on actual restrictions on gathering in many cases. You see it in some places like Australia. You saw it in California really bad, and other times, where they're putting limitations on the number of people that could gather. As far as I'm aware, they never did that in New York State. They were just saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't get together and have a party if you're not sure if everyone's not sick. And Fauci said, like, even if you're vaccinated, is not safe to gather together. Again, your family gets to decide what that risk is, and hope you made wise decisions on that. Hopefully, there's not any sickness going around. It is a serious thing, right? There's Omicron variant now, and my county and Monroe County, but we have ways of being able to figure this out, right? Like, again, some folks are vaccinated, helps. We have rapid testing, which is great. That was a great way for the friends that were worried about COVID, and family members, when we do gather with them, when they're worried about for Thanksgiving, when we did that, they're worried about someone getting sick. Okay, you can take a rapid test. It's pretty good. In fact, what's interesting is I've seen things saying that it's almost better than a PCR test at this point, because what happens, and this is, excuse me if I get any of this wrong, but this is just me repeating this from the research I've done on looking at this. And by research, I mean like reading articles online. But the PCR test, from what I understand, is they are really good at detecting small amounts of virus. But if you take a PCR test and it takes 3 days to get the results from that, and you catch it between that time, well, then then it's then it's not effective, right? Like if you catch it between getting the test and getting the results and you act based on that information, whereas the rapid test, you take it that afternoon and you're going to gather with your family that night, it's not going to tell you if you're in the early stages of being sick or, if you're well over the virus at this point, but it's still kind of hanging out in your system. PCR tests will catch both of those, but the rapid test will tell you if you're likely to spread to your family. These are pretty good. It's a great tool for being able to tell, whether or not you're actually sick enough to spread to other people. And it's telling you that information based on what your body's doing at the moment, not a couple days prior, depending on how quick like a PCR test can get back to you. And if you want one that like same day results, it can be expensive in some cases. And so I say all this because I know many of you are making these decisions. Many of you might still be like considering having Christmas parties this week, and holiday parties. I know like my family used to do, even before COVID, like we used to do like a January holiday party because everyone was doing their own thing. And then in January we'd meet up and that would be kind of like a weeks later holiday party. And there are ways, if you have family members who are concerned about this stuff, to take that in mind, to say like, hey, this is a risk we're willing to take. We take rapid test, or some folks might want to wear a mask. You can wear an N95 now, whatever, while you're not eating. If that's what makes you feel safe, then great. If you want to go outside, gather with friends. The other day, they're like, oh, we're not really comfortable meeting inside, but if we all have a big fire outside, we'd feel safe doing that. Cool. And that's so important. Like for the folks who are like just sitting at home and not interacting with folks, that can be really damaging and grating on your mental health. And I hope if you're listening today that you do get out, you try to interact with folks and you figure out ways that you feel safe enough to do so. We have a ton of tools for being able to do that nowadays. And just it's something that I'm reflecting a lot on this weekend, because I was very sad that I couldn't gather with my family, and I want to find ways to be able to do that again based on the actual risk that we had of someone actually having COVID. So we're like, no, it's I'm not worried about it if no one's showing symptoms, but if someone's actually sick, I want to be in the same room as them. And I think we have ways to be able to do it. And again, I know it's still a real thing. It's still a thing that it affects lots of folks. It's a serious disease, but there are ways that we can manage our safety. And just because the state says to do something or not do something does not mean that we have to list them, and particularly when they're not using coercion. Okay, great. The state is telling us the information and we are free to act on that. Great. Now, when the state is using coercion, I'm going to be here on this show trashing them for that, right? Because when we're able to make our own decisions, when we're free to act based on good information, we get better outcomes and better solutions to figure out ways to keep society going, to preserve mental health, to keep businesses running. And the state, even if it's filled with the smartest people ever, cannot possibly know every solution that's out there. I'm not even bashing the intelligence of the state at this point. I'm just saying it is not possible to know every solution out there because you, as an individual, cannot know everything outside the scope of your own experience. That is the fundamental limitations of bureaucracy, of the state itself, of the government itself. It's not insulting their intelligence, and boy, howdy, can we do that on some days, but it is a fundamental limitation of government. And for that reason, that's why I say is, again, gather your own data, decide what's best for your family. If you decide it's worth the risk to gather, just take your precautions, do your thing, make people feel safe, make people feel loved, gather together. This is the time of year for us to do it. And I hope that you can find a way to do that. Tim O'Connor, thanks for listening today. He says, I will bash the intelligence state, leave that to me. Again, Tim, I'll bash the intelligence of government officials and politicians all day. I'm just making a generalization that it doesn't matter who you put in office. It doesn't. You can't elect someone smarter and have that person fix everything. Like, it is a fundamental limitation of the system. That is a flaw that exists in two-party politics. Oh, we'll just elect someone smarter, and then they will be able to gather the machinery of the state and tweak things and fix everything. No, you can't. It's not possible. Thanks again for joining us here on Free Solution. When we come back, I'm going to talk about some state policy issues related to COVID, and then maybe a few national policy issues too. Thanks again for joining us. Give us a call if you want to participate, 585-346-3000. We'll be back just a few minutes on A Free Solution.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Inside the Taylor Laboratories.
Hey, Tony, what you doing?
A little experiment, Zach. Look what I have under the microscope.
Nah, what's that?
A sample of indoor air.
How can it be that dirty? Don't AC and furnace filters help?
Only with dust, Zach. But when Taylor installs a whole house APCO air purifier to detox the air, odors, chemicals, mold, bacteria, and viruses are removed.
For clean indoor air.
Yep. Ain't science awesome?
Taylor, 500 help.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We could give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us on this wonderful Monday morning, Monday after Christmas. Hope Santa was nice to you guys. Got everything you wanted for Christmas. Let's talk about kind of holiday gathering, general stuff. Again, I think using testing or just, again, the producer and I were talking about this over the break, just being adults about it and figuring out what level of risk you and the people around you want to take is good. You know, don't throw caution to the wind, right? If you're someone who's actually vulnerable or you have a family member who's vulnerable, but I think we as individuals can decide what level of risk that we're willing to take, and you should act accordingly. Again, if your family members are worried about this too, you know, be truthful and honest about what you're willing to do to accommodate them, and remember that, you know, these are your family. Don't let, I feel like this gets so mixed up in politics so often, you know, and I hope that this isn't the case in your family, but like just remember, even when there's those political divisions, to remember what ought to come first, and that's loving your family and finding ways to make things work. I hope you're keeping that in mind, not just during the holiday season, but all the time, trying to make sure that you know, where you can find reconciliation and joy, even across political lines, among family members, among, you know, found family, among friends. It's a good time to consider that, and I think that's how most people are. That's how most Americans are, is that we try to come together and not ignore those differences, but to come together and show love for one another. and that the reflection of national politics about constant division and turmoil isn't necessarily reflected in our individual communities, however you choose to define that. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about state policy too, because there's something interesting that came out this morning. Governor Hochul has announced that, well, not this morning, it announced recently, was that last week, that she was going to change the new guidelines for essential workers, particularly healthcare workers and some other fields, that they could return to work after 5 days of exposure if you're fully vaccinated, or 5 days after getting sick instead of 10 days, as long as they aren't showing symptoms or their symptoms are resolving. And they, so they have some guidelines, like they can't have had a fever for 72 hours, can't be taking medication for that. They got to wear a mask. Okay. Yeah. Which again, if you're in the healthcare field, you're probably wearing a mask no matter what, at this point. So, of course they're going to do that. And then a few healthcare workers are pretty mad about this, which is interesting. I mean, it's because there's all these policies in place, like this one included, where we have a ton of pressure on healthcare workers to be there, to be present. They feel often overworked and understaffed, and this is one of the things that contributes to that, right? It's that if you're exposed as a non-vaccinated person, you have to be now in the healthcare settings, or if you're you get sick, you get COVID, when can you return to work, right? If you are over your illness, if you are no longer experiencing symptoms, you're no longer contagious, right? Which may happen after 5 days. If you're able to work, then why shouldn't you go back? Why shouldn't you be able to go back? In some cases, people want to be able to go back, right? And I think mixing this with testing kind of seems like a good idea, right? If you're no longer contagious, you're wearing a mask, you're no longer experiencing severe symptoms, particularly for folks who are vaccinated, who tend to get over the hump of the illness quickly. Why shouldn't we reduce that time to 5 days, as long as you're not showing symptoms? That makes sense to me, because I've heard of some folks that it really is like a week-long illness and that's it. Some folks it's going to be 2, 3, 4 weeks, right? That's, if that's the case, you're still feeling terrible, you're unable to work, obviously it's different. But if you're vaccinated, you get over it quick, why not? Why not go back to work? Well, this is one of those moves that, like, I try to be fair to folks, right? Like Governor Hochul does a bunch of stuff that I don't particularly like, but I look at this and like, well, that doesn't seem totally unreasonable. Now, if you're listening here and you're a healthcare professional, you're a nurse or you're a doctor, or any other worker in the healthcare industry, and you feel differently, or you feel the same, give us a call, 585-346-3000. 585-346-3000. You let me know what you think. Is this something that makes sense? Is this something that Governor Hochul should do, ought to do, in relation to frontline essential workers? Okay. No symptoms, wear a mask, you can go back to work. Does this put pressure on people to go back to work if they're maybe still feeling terrible? I don't know. Again, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to weigh in on this. Thanks, folks, who are listening online, too. I see Shelly's here. Good afternoon, Shelly. Thank you for listening today. Appreciate you. And I know we've still got Tim on here as well. And so, on state news, so that's one of the things that, we're looking at. We're also seeing, again, the push from the governor's office to keep schools open, which, we saw that from Joe Biden too. We're seeing it from Governor Hochul. Okay, cool. That's, if that's something that we can do, great. And using testing to do that, if that limits the spread of disease, that's great. Now, I do have some level of criticism for like the amount of testing that takes place too. And I get how tough that can be to force kids to get tested over and over again, right? Again, it's even for kids who are like old enough to sort of understand what's going on. It's hard, like every time, my son's had symptoms that look like they could maybe possibly be COVID. He's, a 10-month-old baby. He has to get the nose test. It's happened a couple of times, gotten exposed and he got sick afterwards. Okay. They do the thing. It's terrible. especially because I can't explain to him what's going on. He cries, it's upset, it hurts, it's terrible. And what's interesting? So Shelly says, Hochul's at war with COVID. I call her a Don Quixote. That's clever. Love it. And the people are her windmills. No, that's she's fighting a war. Who's she really fighting a war against that? And Tim says, do you prefer the term mass hysteria or the science of compliance? Tim, I mean, again, I don't think it's an either or thing, man. Like, there are folks who they kill me where they're like afraid of everything. They are terrified of going outside even today. When again, we've learned enough about this pandemic where we can take some reasonable precautions for ourselves and for the people around us, right? Like there's reasonable things that we could do. Science of compliance. I mean, there are folks who, they're on that like praise science train where everything, Dr. Tony, the science, Fauci, like everything he says is word, everything he says is law. And with that, I don't necessarily buy into that either. It's you can think for yourself again that they don't have a monopoly on this stuff, but there really is something happening, right? They're getting to something like what 700,000 people who died from this. I'll keep saying this again. Think for yourself. You don't have to fall into these partisan things. Like again, I think the Republicans take the not paying attention to this stuff a little bit too far too. I don't know that I agree with everything that they say, and then some of the folks who say like this is all fake, this is all mass hysteria, there's nothing happening at all. No, guys, you're taking it a little bit too far. I don't agree with that. There's stuff happening. People are really getting sick, and it's not just abstract for me. Again, I've seen my family members, my friends get extremely sick. I've had people who have been on this show who have died of COVID before. Like it is a real thing. But so is things like getting into a car accident, right? Like we take a risk every day when we go into a car, and we take certain precautions to maybe keep ourselves a little bit safer. Maybe we don't go, 100 miles an hour down a residential street. Maybe we put on seatbelts. When I protect my loved ones in the car, I put my young son in a car seat, right? That's safe, secure, set up properly, do all that. So I take precautions when I'm driving as well. In the same way that I could take precautions around COVID. And I see a few other comments here. Gene, I see your comment. I don't have time to read that. I'll read that over the break, and then we could talk about it afterwards. Again, thanks for the other comments, Shelly and Tim and others who are listening today, folks who are just saying hi. So thank you. And again, thanks for joining us here on Free Solution. Appreciate it. If you have anything to add in here, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We're going to be back in just a few minutes here on A Free Solution. Talk to you soon.
Fly the flag, stand for freedom. AM 1040 Avon, Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the News 10 NBC forecast on WYSL. For tonight, we'll see sleet and freezing rain transition over to plain old rain before we dry out late. Low temperature of 34. Going into tomorrow, we'll see a high temperature of 39. We'll start off with some sunshine before clouds increase in the afternoon. Snow showers possible during the evening hours as well. Tuesday night, wintry mix or a snow shower possible, low temperature of 33. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
At Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Anthony Drive off Route 96 in Victor, they'll help you get ready for winter with America's favorite four-wheel drive vehicles, like the 21 Jeep Wrangler Sport Convertible, $289 a month for 39 months. A 21 Jeep Grand Cherokee L Limited 4x4 is just $399 a month for 42 months. Must be returning lessee and have Grand Cherokee L Conquest. The 21 Dodge Durango SXT Plus Platinum all-wheel drive SUV, only $349 a month for 36 months. Must have Stellantis loyalty. The 21 Ram 1500 Classic Warlock Quad Cab 4x4 pickup is just $169 a month for 39 months. Must have Stellantis loyalty. Be returning lessee. Use 2 Ram coupons while supplies last. $2,500 cash or trade. First payment, DMV, taxes and fees due at signing. Other conditions apply. See dealer for details. We're here to fully serve Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram customers in Victor, Canandaigua, Macedon, Fairport, and throughout the Metro and Finger Lakes. Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 6560 Anthony Drive in Victor.
You ever hear the old saying, what you don't know can hurt you? Well, that's completely false. What you don't know can and will hurt you. This is Vinny Dallo. I'm a financial planner and the founder of Cap'n Financial. I have a saying in my office that is true. Education is the obligation of the expert. That's why I'm on the air on WYSL. Tune into my show, Money Talks, on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. At Cap'n Financial, our process begins with educating our clients on all areas of financial planning. On Money Talks, you'll hear us discuss retirement, investments, insurance, and helpful financial strategies. So be sure to tune in to Money Talks.
Vinny Dallo is a financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Cap'n Financial, its employees, nor Nylife Securities LLC or its representatives or affiliates provide tax, legal, and accounting advice. Please consult your own tax, legal, or accounting professional before making any decisions. The show is provided for informational purposes only.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
WYSL.
Straps, petite garters, frilly lace, and pink and black, blue and black, green and black, purple, black, red and black, white, all black. Bachi for your beautiful body. Small, medium, large, extra large, 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X, and show it. Bachi.
Looking for a beautiful Brockport home that's close to everything? The Meadows Apartments in Brockport are just minutes from the Central School and SUNY Brockport campuses. Convenient to Lake Ontario, shopping, parks, and restaurants. Choose from 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments in our village community with many amenities. The Meadows Apartment community in Brockport features a swimming pool and convenient in-building laundry centers. Come take an apartment tour and meet our friendly and knowledgeable on-site staff on Ellis Drive in Brockport, or visit themeadowsny.com to learn more.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery in Avon.
All-Star Custom Apparel and Design is your local source for outfitting your team, employees, customers, updating your logo, decaling your vehicles, and promotional items. Stop in and see us at our new location at 45 High Tech Drive in Rush. All-Star will get your name recognized.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. We're live here on WYSL until 1 p.m. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. If you want to participate in the show, again, until 1 p.m. Also put another number on the scroller here if you're listening online. friends listening over at Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson pages, and the Free Solution group. We got one of those too. Just look for a Free Solution, and if you want to be in the group, let us know. Shout down the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in Newark as well. Thanks again for being here. And we got a longer comment from Gene, and basically it's just a story of that sort of independent decision making, right? Like just understanding what someone's risk is, what the exposure is for kids, for older adults, for someone who has been exposed. Again, we can work it out. The point that Gene was making is that they left the choice up to us. Inform everyone about like what the condition is, what the risk exposure is, and then make informed decisions based on that data. We don't have to let the state do the thinking for us. And Shelley makes a good comment too about this: is what we sanctioned the heck out of 8 South African nations because they discovered the latest variant. Punishing people who are actually working on cures is not the proper use of science. Shelley, I agree with that. And I ended up doing a section on that back when that first happened, when we put all these travel bans on several South African nations, some of which hadn't actually had Omicron variant detected him yet in South Africa, which had apparently has a very good laboratory there for studying viruses, was punished for that, despite the fact that it was all over Europe by that point, several other countries who never got these travel restrictions. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't based in science. Again, science and politics often come into conflict with one another, and it's not something that just Democrats do or just Republicans do. It's that when the facts get in the way of your political agenda, be careful, because that's when you can start doing some unethical things. And both Republicans and Democrats do that. And I think that's a human nature thing, and that's why we constantly have to hold politicians accountable, and why I don't particularly trust people with power ever, because that's I think might be part of a human nature thing. And it's a good, what was that quote from the founding fathers? If men were angels, oh man, I'm botching this quote, but like if men were angels, we wouldn't need the Constitution. Basically, is what it was. Goodness, someone saved me in the comments and give me the actual quote for that. That one of the founding fathers had said. And yeah, so just to wrap up what I started talking about last segment, and I want to get to some other topics today. Just Governor Hochul, trying to get more tests in the schools. Again, testing to stay, I think, is a nice thing. It's going to be interesting to see if that comes into conflict with, again, what people believe they need to do to stay safe, what teachers unions are pushing for, to stay safe, even if it's not necessarily in the best interest of kids' education, because I know, at least I don't know about New York State Teachers Union in particular, but a lot of teachers union across the country are pushing for more remote learning, and for they'll spin it as a greater protection for their workers, but oftentimes that means kids who are unable to be in the classroom, where that might be the most stable thing about their lives is being in school. That might be the only place where they're actually getting any learning done based in their home environment, or lack of access to technology and all these other issues. But I'm curious to see if that's what ends up happening in Rochester, since we had apparently they had all the kids take home their technology over Christmas break. So we'll see if it ends up being remote for a while, which I think could be tough for a lot of kids. Again, that's my criticism of the school system generally, is that they are kind of beholden to different types of interests, and you don't have as many options to work around if you aren't able to threaten them with taking your money elsewhere. And so yeah, again, that's one of those things I hope that does work out on Governor Hochul's side. Again, plenty of criticism for her along the way, criticism about vaccine mandates, criticisms about the way she approaches COVID, criticisms about her executive orders. Although there's another one that I'm okay with. It's an executive order allowing the Assembly and Senate to meet remotely. I think that's fine. Again, I know some folks are. We talked about this like in like the early pandemic days with Congress. I know some folks are like, no, Congress and state legislatures should just meet in Albany and they shouldn't be allowed to meet remotely. And I'm totally fine with it. If they want to stay in their home district and meet remotely, cool. Maybe it gets them to understand their home district a bit better if they spend more time there instead of in the cesspool of Washington, D.C. or in Albany. I'd rather have them close to the people. I'm fine with that. That's great. That only applies till January 15th, though. The legislature, I guess, would have to pass a new law if they wanted to keep that going. A couple other things too. Just a small short story that I found is that apparently there are a whole bunch of states that ban alcohol sales on Christmas, which is interesting. And I know this is a total shift from what I've been talking about before, but I just find it interesting as a like, why are we still doing this sort of thing, right? Like, shouldn't stores be able to decide for themselves whether or not they want to be open on Christmas Day? And you can choose to patronize them or not patronize them based on that information. It's the same thing, same common consistent principles that apply to the COVID risk and whether businesses should be open, closed, require certain things of their customers to be in there, their employees to be in there, whatever. Same thing. If they want to be open on Christmas, cool. That's you should be able to. And apparently in New York, liquor stores aren't supposed to be open on Christmas. It's reading. I'll post a link to the article about that. Which again, if a liquor store chooses to be closed, cool, let them choose to be closed. But if they want to be open and they want to be the one liquor store in their half of the city that's going to be open on Christmas, in case someone realizes they forgot to buy the wine and someone wants to go and grab that on that day, why shouldn't they have the choice to be open? Apparently beer sales are still allowed. Many other states you can't sell beer on Christmas either. Again, same thing. I blanked and forgotten stuff on Christmas. Like, oh shoot, I said I was going to bring this type of beer to my Christmas party with my family, and I forget. And I'm grateful to some of those stores that are open. I try not to do that because I don't want. I want to be prepared, A, and B. I don't know that. I mean, that kind of stinks for the workers who have to be in, right? So I don't know how I feel about spending money in those situations, but I'm grateful that there's occasionally a store to be able to bail me out, convenience store that I can go buy some beer at. But yeah, just applying those principles consistently. Why has New York State banned this? Also, I still don't get why we went back on the being able to have alcohol to go thing. I know I know it's not. It's a small thing. It's a petty issue. It's more. Again, we as individuals and as in businesses should be able to make our own decisions on these types of things. And the more you start to look at this stuff, like even though it's a small law, you start to think this sort of petty micromanagement of businesses and individuals permeates and makes much bigger waves in situations like COVID, right? Again, it's a small thing. Should we be able to buy liquor on Christmas? Should we be able to take a beer to go? Small thing. I know, not a big thing. It's not the hill I'm going to die on. It's not the number one issue of the liberty movement, but it's just one more way in which the state gets to decide how we choose to interact with one another. And that sort of creeping acceptance of the state being able to regulate our behavior in that way does end up having much wider consequences. So every time I see something like this, even a small petty thing like this, I'm going to call it out and just say, like, hey, let's get rid of this. Chip away at it. Every little time they do that. No, every single instance, this is illegitimate and we shouldn't be doing this sort of thing. And related to that too, and I'm not going to get to that, this whole thing in this segment. No, I want to talk about it more in the next segment, is laws regulating feeding people who are homeless. And we think about it more maybe this time of year, but there are many states, many cities who regulate the ability of people to be able to feed folks who are going through a rough time, who are homeless, maybe sleeping rough at this time of year, and or even going after folks with fines, potential jail time, and other serious consequences for trying to do something charitable, for trying to help out people in their city, people in their communities. Instead of rewarding that sort of behavior, oftentimes many cities punish it. They make it illegal, and you have to break the law in order to help your fellow man. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll talk a little bit more about that and any other issues that come up in the comments and whatnot. Thanks again for joining us at Free Solution. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Need help with health insurance? The Greece Regional Chamber provides assistance with health insurance for businesses, nonprofits, families, and individuals throughout our region. We pride ourselves on the personalized service that we provide for our clients. Let us help you find health insurance plans that fit your needs and navigate the paperwork. Greece Chamber Benefit Partners, located at 2402 Westridge Road in Rochester, New York, offers a broad range of medical insurance plans for businesses, nonprofits, individuals, and families throughout the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, working with insurance companies including Excelis Blue Cross Blue Shield, Univera, and MVP Healthcare. We can also help you access insurance plans through the New York State of Health, the official health plan marketplace. Again, you do not need to live or work in Greece to utilize our brokerage services. We serve the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region of New York State. Visit greecechamber.org to sign up for one of our free health insurance information sessions or schedule an appointment with one of our licensed brokers. Call 585-227-7272. 585-227-7272.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us. You can give us a call. We're live here on WYSL until 1 p.m. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Live on all the online streams as well, and on a little bit later over at WACK out in Newark. Appreciate y'all being here, no matter where you're listening. A couple comments again, Shelly, Tim, all the folks listening today, says in 2020 businesses adapt to the situation. Generally they still do, but miss cleaning the conveyor belt at checkout. I've still seen a few businesses do that. I'm actually I know COVID wise, it doesn't matter a whole ton to disinfect the surfaces, but it does help with flu, cold, and just other gross stuff people put on conveyor belts. I'm fine. If they're gonna clean that up more often, that's great. I love when grocery stores do that too. And then also says if a county chooses to be a dry county, then so be it. But if they aren't a dry county, they should be able to operate as they see fit. Yeah, and that's one of those things that are tough for me too. Things like dry counties, like I know that these are still a thing. Even within New York, like the alcohol laws like vary by county. Like where I live in Monroe County, like you can't serve alcohol after 2 a.m. until whatever time you're able to serve again. Whereas in New York City, they don't do that. So if you want to go have a drink at like 3:30 in the morning, and I have in days when I was younger, you're able to do that. And I sometimes wish that you could do that in my county. But not that I have much desire to do that nowadays. But I get here's what the conflict is. Just because a law is more local doesn't mean that that's better. And it's something kind of small government libertarians and conservatives sometimes drive me nuts about, where they're like, well, like if the feds are doing this or the state's doing this, and I'm against it. But if like my city or town is doing this thing, well, that's local government, and that's the way we should do it. And I'm not sure that I agree with that. Like again, if it's local tyranny, then why is it any better? And I just got a text too saying that Erie County apparently can serve alcohol until 4 a.m. I think too. So it varies by where you are. But yeah, just because the local government's doing something, just if like a local government has an unjust law, and even if it's in a town 100 people and every person in that town got a say in whether or not that law happens, and the majority comes through. Yeah, I don't think that's any better. And Tim says, "LOL, local tyranny is preferable." Yo, Tim, like I've heard people say this unironically, because they'll say stuff like, "Well, if my local school board says it, it's fine. If my local town council says it, it's fine. But I just don't want the state doing that." And I'm like, no. It's still not okay. Local tyranny is not preferable. Like they don't get a free pass on stupid laws. And speaking of which, that the subject I started talking about in the last segment is the feeding the homeless bans, right? Like, and so like I'll post the article, from I found it in Reason. They do a ton of articles about this stuff, and as they should, right? Like where they'll prevent like churches and like homeless shelters from like going in and doing like public feeding events, right? And they'll say they can't like just open up on a public sidewalk and allow like anyone to come and get a free hot meal, in the wintertime or any time of year they're doing this. Nashville is apparently trying to get a new ordinance where they would require someone to get a permit every time they hand out food, and require you to take like all these food safety classes before you get a permit. Okay, like it, and again, who gets that? Why would you add more hoops to have to jump through to feed people? Now, they'll always present this in terms of like safety, right? Like, well, we don't want someone handing out food that could potentially be unsafe. And like, oh, okay, so yeah, it's better for people to starve and not get that food at all. Like that's a better alternative. What kills me is that like with laws like this, people always try to present libertarians as folks who are cruel and folks who don't care about people who live in extreme poverty, right? And yet you have the government, you have at the local level and sometimes at other levels, like putting these things into place that prevent individuals and charitable groups from taking action outside of the state to help people. No, you have to go ask the state's permission, or you have to get it through government grants, or you have to, get permits, licenses to do all this stuff, instead of just saying, yeah, if you want to collect food and you want to give that to folks in need, you should be able to do that. There should be few restrictions on it. And I know there's groups like, Food Not Bombs, they'll do that. They'll try to recover food from different places, and they'll do events to hand that out. In Rochester and other places, they probably wouldn't agree with my politics, knowing the folks I know in there. But I do agree with the right to be able to do that. They should not have restrictions on that. Now, should they take the responsibility to make sure that they're not serving food in an unsafe way? Yeah, sure. That they should do that. They ought to do that. But you got places like Murfreesboro, Tennessee. You can't. They say like they don't want people just showing up in public spaces and handing out food, because like it's a public space, it's city owned property. Well, you can show up in public space to do all sorts of stuff. You can't go and hand out free food to people. Why not? Newark, New Jersey, not as cool as Newark, New York, where WACK is. Same thing. They're trying to restrict all these local aid groups from doing that, from being able to hand out food. And that tons of examples all over the country trying to do this stuff. In some cases, again, people facing thousands of dollars in fines, facing potential jail time, like these churches who are just trying to help folks out, to help them survive, particularly in this time of year when it's difficult. You know, it kills me when folks who are pro-government, when folks who are progressive, you know, try to accuse me and other libertarians of not caring about folks, and then unironically say, well, the only way you can do this, the only way you can help people, the only way we can have community at all is through the state. Nonsense. We can build our own communities. We can build other ways of having mutual aid, of having responsibility for folks who are in bad situations. It does not have to be through the government. Community is not formed through the state. Community is formed organically. Help can happen organically. In fact, we used to have great systems of mutual aids in cities until the progressive era, which in many ways destroyed different mutual aid societies, mutual aid systems, because we then had all of that go through the state. And the argument goes from the progressive side that, oh, well, without the state helping, we couldn't help these people. We would just leave these people to die. No, what ends up happening in a lot of these cases is that the state is the one preventing individuals from helping others. That's cruel. That's sick. Threatening people with violence and coercion for trying to help others out. Absolutely obnoxious. And I have no idea if this is true. I'm gonna have to look this up. Shelley says Florida stopped a 12-year-old boy from handing out PB&J sandwiches to homeless people because he didn't have a commercial kitchen license. I have no idea if that's true, Shelley, but it sounds like something that could happen. You know, again, examples like this are absolutely everywhere. And so, you know, I'm trying to figure out how far I want to take this, but to me, like, you know, if you're the type of person who is defying your local government and trying to help people in need right now or any time of year, I would love to hear about it. You know, if your local government trying to prevent you from doing this thing, again, send me an email, contact@afreesolution.com. Would love to hear about these types of stories, because if there's an unjust law like that, you know, we need to call attention. That needs to go. Any law that creates a barrier to you helping people is an unjust law. We need to get rid of it right away. And just because that tyranny happens at the local level, small government folks, local government folks, doesn't make it okay either. Just because it's your town government doing it, your county government doing it, your village government doing it, doesn't mean it's okay there too. We need to combat tyranny wherever it happens to pop up, at whatever level, federal, state, local, doesn't matter. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. I'll be back on Wednesday. Larry Sharp will be in tomorrow. Talk to you then. Take care.
This is Bob Lucky, Western New York correspondent for News 1040 AM.